Welcome everybody to this week, and let me tell you what a week it has been. Holy banana bread. We got a lot of stuff that we can definitely talk about on today's program. So some of the things that we're going to cover today, PPI. So that's the producer price index. We're going to talk a little bit about that. That information came out this week. In addition to that, there's been a lot of tech layoffs in the US. So I want to definitely touch on the tech layoffs. We've also got some news going on with Bitcoin. Well, it's more or less we're going to take a look at the charts, see what Bitcoin is up to, see where everything is going. As usual, we will also have our what in the banana bread is going on with Elon. And just give me a second here. For whatever reason. All right. Okay, hopefully that's better. I think I was having a little bit of technical difficulty. So we're also going to do our what in the banana bread is going on with Elon. So we got that going on. And as well, we'll have a couple other small stories that I just collectively like to call our news ticker. So anyway, at this point, I normally will greet the chat. So hopefully you guys are all doing okay. I will warn you guys, there is a thunderstorm happening here as we're broadcasting. So if for any weird reason I disappear, I will be right back. But I'm not really anticipating there to be too much of an issue. All right. So before we jump into our first story, let's very quickly just check in with chat. We got Jordan here who's saying hello, Candace. Hello, Jordan. We got Lily who's saying hi, and I'm saying hi back as well. All right. So up first is our PPI. So that's the producer price index. So what that basically boils down to your wholesale prices. So if you know anything about retail or just marketing, generally the manufacturer will have a price that they will charge, and then the retailer will purchase it from them. And then, of course, they will mark that up before they sell it to you. So when we are looking at PPI, we're actually looking at that wholesale price that is being presented to you guys. And I'll very quickly just say hi to the friggin' Oracle. Ola, enter the Mac. I don't know what that means, but hey, sounds cool anyway. All right, so this is what we've been expecting. So we've been expecting the PPI to come out, and it came out, I believe it was on Thursday. And amazingly enough, it actually wasn't far off from what was expected, which is good because the market has been through a lot of turmoil lately, and anytime it can be a little bit better, that's not a bad thing. Okay, so where it came out is it came out as we had an overall increase of 11%. That's the year increase. That's not just for April. April, it was only up 0.5%. But the beautiful thing is, overall, year by year, the number was 11.5% in March. Now, initially, they had it at 11.2% in March, but they revised it up to 11.5%. So for April, it was 11%. So overall, we're trending in the right direction. That's a really good thing. It doesn't mean that we're out of the woods by any long shot. There's still a lot of issues going on when it comes to the American economy, and we'll get this information as well for Canada in the upcoming weeks. So it'll be interesting to see how we compare to America. But right now, America's kind of controlling the ship, and we're kind of attached to them. So the way the American economy go is going to really, really impact about the way things go here. So that's the whole thing with the PPI. The beautiful news is, and here's the best thing for the market right now. This was pretty much the last catalyst event on the schedule until June. Mind you, we're talking June 1st, because June 1st, that will be the next time that the Fed meets, and we're looking at an interest on probably another 0.5 interest rate hike for the US. So that'll be interesting, and the markets will probably react to that once that happens. But at least this week coming up, I think this week is probably going to be Not too bad of a week, but there is a lot of other stuff going on too, and especially when it deals with tech. And that's kind of our main story of the day is what is happening in the friggin' world of tech. Now, a few more people have have snuck in while I've been talking a little bit about the PPI. So, hey, Bonnie, hey, Red Beard, hit the like. Yeah, hit the like button, folks. Bonnie just said she did. Perfect. And hey, y'all. Awesome. So, the tech layoffs is kind of interesting. So, one of the big things that we're having well, if you've seen the market, all of the big tech companies have been absolutely tanking. So there has been a lot of turmoil in tech when it comes to their price, it comes to their stocks, when it comes to their valuations, and it's been a little bit of a bloodbath when it comes to them. But here's some interesting things. Now we're starting to look at the fact that there's been a lot of layoffs in tech. So just to give you guys an example, Robinhood has actually cut 9% of their staff. That's a lot of people. Netflix has also laid off a portion of their workforce. I don't have the exact number that they laid off, just that they've laid off a portion. Amazon basically have already come out and stated that they've hired too many people. So they're looking at they look at having a lot of overhiring in 2021. So they're probably going to be starting to do some more to do some layoffs. Uber is basically moved into what they call a hiring slowdown because they've just got too many people. And Facebook has actually frozen all hiring for the rest of 2022. So we got a little bit of stuff happening here when it comes to the tech world, when it comes to their job force. Now, it's interesting that we're in a situation like Jay Powell. Powell actually said that right now there's a lot of there's a lot of open job vacancies in the US. Like, I believe right now we're looking at 11.5 million job openings. He wants to see that number come down to about 8 million to get things back to normal, because apparently 8 million is the normal amount of job openings. And it's been kind of this interesting thing. I think they're at this point where they believe that by getting themselves to that number, that's going to help solve some of the inflation issue. And it's hard to say whether or not it will, but there is a chance that it might certainly help, because we do have a lot of issue with with all of these unfilled jobs. And if you start laying people off from tech, they're going to have to go somewhere. Now, keep in mind, when you're looking at tech, like take Amazon, the people who are being laid off from Amazon, they may be people who are just working in warehouses, so they can probably transition to any sort of job. So it's not really a big issue. So it's going to be interesting to see if that's going to basically solve, if the tech layoffs are going to start to solve some of this 11.5 million unfilled jobs. So it'll be really interesting, I think, when this all starts to come together. But what's that going to mean for the tech sector? Even if the market overall recovers, I think tech may lag a little bit on this, because I think I've got the feeling, and I don't have any real empirical evidence to back this up, but I have the feeling that tech is going to basically have a little bit of a rough spring going into summer, and maybe even beyond that. So it's kind of interesting. I think you have to sort of look, when you look at how fast tech grew through, like, especially through the illness, there's a lot of room for them to fall down. And even still, if you were to take their growth before, if you took the growth before the pandemic and you were to sort of extrapolate that line, we're still way above that line. So there's lots of room for them to technically fall down and still be in line with their normal growth. And that kind of makes sense. Now, I think depending on which companies, but people like, Amazon made all of its money from the fact that all the people in lockdown have been ordering stuff like crazy. And I think we're starting to get to the point now where people just don't have all of that disposable income. So all of the free money has stopped. And some of the tax bills have come in. So you're probably seeing, I'd love to see the exact data, but you're definitely seeing a major slowdown in the amount of revenue that was just flowing free fall into Amazon. And I think their earnings definitely reflected that because they were definitely way down. So that's kind of an issue for them. So that's kind of interesting. So I think it's going to be really interesting with this whole tech thing, just sort of seeing how bad it gets, how many people get laid off. How is it going to filter over to Canada? That's what's going to be really interesting. Like our big tech player, Shopify, they're struggling big time. Now, most of their model is it's almost all remote work too. So it'll be interesting to see whether they can still maintain the workforce that they have, or if they're also going to get caught up in this whole needing to lay off a few people. Because it's really, I think it really just boils down to we're paying the piper at this point in time when it comes to society and it comes to the effects of the illness. Now, one really interesting story as well is in regards to restaurants. I had read that over the course of the illness and the recovery, we have had 13,000 restaurants in Canada close their doors permanently. Think about that. 13,000 restaurants. That's a lot. Now, one of the big issues that they have, of course, in the restaurant industry is they don't have, the demand is now back. Like people want to go to the restaurant, people want to eat, but they do not have the staff. So a lot of restaurants are now kind of in that situation where they have to do a couple of things. One, they have to reduce their hours of operation. It's not because there isn't a demand, it's because they just don't have the staffing. The other thing that we're starting to see too as well is that there are a lot of restaurants who are like saying, okay, with fewer staff, we can't offer as many things on the menu as we used to. So you're seeing a lot of companies, you're seeing a lot of restaurants saying, okay, let's start hauling back our menu a little bit. Let's start seeing what we can and cannot offer. And that makes sense because if you have less people in the kitchen cooking, it's definitely easier for them to have a smaller menu. So that's going to be one of those things that we're going to start seeing. Don't be surprised if you go to your favorite restaurant and find out that obscure burger that you seem to be the only person who loves is now no longer on the menu, because that may very well happen. So that's kind of the situation that we're into when it comes to this whole the after effect of the illness, for sure. Now, keep in mind, we still got other issues as well that are raining down on us. For example, we still got backlog of supply chain. There's still issues in China. Now, China seems to be doing a little bit better with the illness. Though in illness news, I did hear that they actually do have an outbreak now in North Korea. North Korea, who for some reason was able to withstand the whole illness without having any real outbreaks. Now, apparently they do. And here's another interesting story. An interesting story came out of India. India is, and people may not realize this, but India is the second largest wheat producer in the world. They have now banned all exports of wheat. And the reasoning behind that is that, they want to feed their people first before they look at the world. Now, at first, when you hear this, you're being like, oh my God, the second largest wheat producer in the world is no longer exporting it. We're all in trouble. It's not as bad as it seems, because already India used a lot of that wheat that they produced. So a lot of it was not leaving their country anyway. I believe we're looking at about 10.5 tons roughly is how much wheat we're talking about. So, but it is interesting. They're now pulling back to the point where they're like, well, because of what's happening with Russia and Ukraine and all of those issues, let's start pulling back the wheat and let's just hold that in. We'll keep we'll keep it for our people. And I suppose that makes sense. Imagine if Canada were to start doing that too, because, we're a very big wheat exporter as well. But honestly, we couldn't afford it. That's one of the issues that we would have. There's no way that we could pay the wheat farmers what they can get externally. So it's just one of those things to think about. In that case there with India, I mean, it was legislation that came through, and that's what, caused the whole issue. Now, when we talk about some other interesting news too, is I also want to talk a tiny bit about Armaco. I don't know if you know who Armaco is. So Armaco is a really big oil company. They're based in, I believe it's Dubai. And they had their Q1 profits. Their Q1 report came out, and they had an 80% increase in profits in Q1. 80%. And when I say an 80% increase, that actually meant their profits were up by $21.7 billion. So that's 21.7 billion more dollars. No wonder Dubai is such a lovely looking city. It's like there's so much money in it. But what's really interesting about that is that when we think about the whole boom in the energy sector, this is kind of like the extreme end of it, but it's happening. It's one of these things that are really, really, really booming. And I'll tell you a little story here. So I was looking to do a video for tomorrow, because I normally do my Monday video. And I was trying to come up with some ideas. And the idea I came up with was to do a video on some growth titans. I was going to call it titans because I think that's kind of fun. So I was going to look at some growth titans. So just some companies with growth, maybe a little bit of passive income, were just absolutely blowing it completely out of the water, like a titan would. So in the process of researching stocks and coming up with 10 really, really insane return on investment type companies, I realized very quickly they were all in the same sector. So inadvertently, my Titan video is all energy sector companies, and it just turned out that sector is booming so much that there is insane profits to be made in it. So you'll have to check that out tomorrow. It drops at 11 a.m. Eastern. But it goes to show that it's just insane how much money we currently have flowing into the energy sector. And I don't think it's going to stop soon. A lot of experts are projecting that it's going to go through 2022 and into 2023. So there's still money to be made. So I know if you're coming into it late, you're probably thinking, oh well, oil's already had its heyday. It's time to take profits, not make profits. But I think there's still profits to be made. Now, mind you, if a company from the beginning of the oil boom has doubled in value, let's just say, it's probably not going to double in value again over the next year. But if it went up half, that would still be pretty much better than almost everything else you can invest in. So I think there's still a lot of money to be made in the oil industry. So this is definitely it was definitely an eye-opener looking at just how much money was flowing into that industry. I knew it was a lot going into the research, but coming out of the research, I was just like, let me just say, coming out of that research, there's probably going to be a few moves I'll make in my portfolio tomorrow as a result of that research, because I'm just like, yeah, that's pretty darn awesome. And I noticed that Bleak came in. I just want to say very quick hi to Bleak. Hey, Bleak, welcome to the live stream. Always good to see you. Okay, so that's a little bit about that. Now, another thing too is we were talking about energy, and of course, the price of gas has been flying up. We talked a little bit about that last week. Now I know that in the Maritimes, I think it's already at $2 a liter. And I think I believe Vancouver is supposed to be going up. I heard a rumor that it might be going all the way up to 250, by the end of the month. But I hope that's just a rumor. I don't have hard facts on that. So, but I think most places you're either at $2 or you're getting very, very close to $2 for a liter. So that's pretty ridiculous. So with that happening, one of the things I think is kind of important is learning how to save on gas. Because if gas is going to, cost you that much, there's a lot of different things that you can do that will save you some money when it comes to how much money you're using on your gas. One of the simplest and easiest ways to save gas is to pre-plan your trips. So if you're planning to go to, let's say you want to go shopping, well, if you plan the stores ahead of time and create the best direct route, so you're not sort of crisscrossing back and forth between whole bunch of different places, you can save a considerable amount of gas. So trip planning is huge. I would highly recommend it. It's just one of those things. Even myself, like this is not with a car, but when I go into the grocery store, I know exactly where everything is I want, and if I keep to my planned little trip, I can get in and out pretty darn fast, which is kind of cool. And the same thing with a car. Anything that you can do to minimize the amount of gas that you're doing. Here's another thing too. If you've been sort of not doing your proper vehicle maintenance on your car, get it done, because a lot of times there can be crap going on in your car that is causing you to burn more gas than you need to. And by running proper vehicle maintenance on your car, that can save you a little bit of money on the gas. And when gas is expensive as it is now, it does not take long to add up. Just the way you driving a little bit slower will actually save you gas. Avoiding, hard braking. I don't know. There's a thing I think called jackrabbit starting, which is kind of where you sort of lurch a little bit. Things like that will also help save you gas. If you're on a highway that is suitable for cruise control will absolutely save you on your gas. So those are just a few things. Also, whenever you can avoid idling, that is another great thing. And we're coming into the summer. This is something I did not know until I found it in research, but your air conditioner in your car is using up some of your gas. So you may want to either not use it, it doesn't need to be a freezer in your car. And, or, if you're driving and it's not that bad outside and and you can drive with your windows open, that's probably it'll save you some gas. So why not? Here's this other big thing too. So the amount of gas you burn is a direct relationship to the amount of weight in the car. So one of the things you can do is if you've got, let's say you have a car rack on the top of your car that you're not really using, take the rack off. There's no need paying for the gas to transport that rack. If you've got stuff in your back trunk that you don't need, like I know people who actually have things like sandbags because they use them because in the winter they can use some of the sand to get traction. It's like, take them out. You don't have to worry about sand right now, and that's going to save you some money. All right, now here's the other funny thing. If you're the driver, you may like this. If you're not the driver, you may not like this, but don't take extra passengers with you. Just, because you're paying extra gas to carry their weight as well. So it's a situation where if somebody's like, oh, I'll just come with you for the drive. Well, then it's like, okay, well, you're going to give me $5 for gas if you're coming with me for the drive, because I'm not paying to carry you because that's just one of those little things. So that's really, really kind of important. And obviously, it's actually not a bad idea if somebody does want to go somewhere, to sort of say, hey, if you want to split on the gas, because you're going to pay a little bit more for their weight, and this is just a way to sort of even things out. So it's kind of a neat little thing. Of course, if you live close to a store, why not walk? Get some exercise as you head over to the stores. So that's not an entirely bad thing either. So just a few little things. The other big thing too is just pay attention to your gas prices because, you know, like like stocks, gas does not always go up in a straight line. Sometimes you may have a couple little breaks in it. And plan, if you see, I know in some places, and here the freaking Oracle just threw something in here. Let's just pull this up quickly. Right, most people forget about walking. Yeah, walking is not a bad thing, and it's actually good for you too. Look at it this way: if you're one of these people who just you can't find the time to get on the treadmill to do a little walk for a bit, well, walk to the store instead, and when you come back, you can check off the treadmill on your list, and at the same time you can check off, yay, I saved some money in gas. What was I going to say? Oh, yeah, in some provinces, like I know in the Maritimes, for example, they will usually publicize what's happening to the price of gas because they have they normally have once a week when they change the gas price, and then you can find out, usually you'll find out a day or two ahead of time, it'll leak that it's either going up or down. So if it's going down, then whatever you do, don't fill up on Thursday. If it's going up, well, then you better fill up on Thursday. So that's just when you hear about these things, and by keeping your ear to the grind, that will save you quite a bit of money. Oh, excuse me, when it comes to gas. So that was a different type of gas, by the way. It's from drinking carbonated water. But that's just the whole little thing about gas. There's a lot of money that you can save out there. There's a lot of things that you can do to make it, just to make it a little bit less painful when it comes down to gas and all of that fun stuff. All right. Now, what have we got left on our list for tonight? We still have what in the banana bread is going on with Elon. There's always something going on with Elon, which is kind of funny. So this week with Elon, believe it or not, we've only really got one big story with Elon. And guess what? It's about Twitter once again. So this week, all of a sudden, Elon out of the blue says, yeah, I'm going to put Twitter on hold. And the reason we're going to do that is because I need to have a better idea of how many scammers and fake accounts are in Twitter. So that's interesting, which is really funny because Elon initially said in his bid that he wanted to get rid of all of those fake accounts and he wanted to fix all of that. But yet now he's kind of almost making it sound like he's thinking they should fix some of it. But I think there's stuff going on behind the scenes here. Here's one of the things that I am thinking. So he's offered $44 billion for Twitter, and if tech didn't crash as hard as it has been, even then it was still a pretty high price. But I think now, where tech has been crashing and valuations have been falling, I think he's looking at that $44 billion, and I think he's trying to find a way to knock that number down a bit. So I think that's why he's put it on hold. And quite honestly, as far as Twitter's concerned, I think he pretty much holds most of the cards. So I think what's going to happen is he's going to come back and he's going to say, well, the problem is much worse than I thought. It's going to cost me a lot more to get this all fixed up. So, maybe you guys will consider taking 33 billion instead of 44 billion, or he might even go lower. Who knows? But I think that's what's going on. I don't think it's just because of the spam per se. But now here's an interesting thing. Now, he tweeted out yesterday, that Twitter is now mad at him because he broke an NDA, so a non-disclosure agreement. So apparently what that was is somebody asked Elon about the test because they were going to do a sampling. Twitter wanted to do a sampling to try to figure out exactly what percentage of people are scammers or fake accounts. And so Elon let them know, yeah, they're doing a sampling of 100. So they're going to let me just choose 100 accounts, and then we'll see how many they are. Well, apparently that number was part of the non-disclosure agreement that he had signed with them. And so they're a little upset with him about that. I don't think they're going to do anything about it, but it's just part of this ongoing drama that we have with, with Twitter, which is kind of funny. Now, apparently, the friggin' Oracle, they discussed gas last night too. Well, that's cool. Yeah, I didn't see your show last night, but gas is definitely one of those key button topics for sure. So it's kind of interesting. All right, now we do have one more topic. We have Bitcoin, which, I'm going to pull up the chart here in a moment. Oh, might as well just pull it up now. Give me a moment here. Let's get this going. Boop-a-doo-doo. That's the wrong button. There we go. Share. And we're going to, there we go. There's my screen, and I'll put me down here in the bottom. Okay, here we go. And just give me a second here. There we go. All right, let's pull this all out just so we can sort of see the whole thing. All right, so our good friend Bitcoin. Of course, last week, one of the big things with the market falling is we had a massive Bitcoin drop, crash. The whole thing with Luna, as well as a Terra stablecoin. So there was just a lot of issues that happened with this crash. Now, I'm not worried. We're not going to talk a lot about Luna and Terra because I'm not super worried about that right now. What I am looking at, though, is a few different things when it comes to Bitcoin. So first of all, and this is great, we have finally broken out of my giant channel. So it has now invalidated my giant channel. It's sad to see it go, but it's now dead. So bye-bye, channel. Now, here's the other interesting thing, too. I'll just zoom in a little bit here. So one of the interesting things is this here was our last layer of resistance. And here's the interesting thing. And we've actually, since this show started, we've had some action. So when we crashed down, we hit this resistance, and we did not really, it held a little bit. So it came down here, and it did come back up a little bit, but then it broke down again. And we wicked all the way down to 25,000, which is amazing. But here we are. We got pushed back up at 25,000. And that's because between 25 and 22, there's a lot of resistance in that area. There's absolutely no resistance, though, between here and the 25. So luckily, 25, it obviously, you can tell that 25 is a strong level of resistance because when it hit it, when it wicked down and hit it, it wicked back really fast. That's a sign that there's a good amount of support there. Now, this was that old support that we had, this one zone of old support. And of course, when we broke through it, it then flipped into resistance. Now, I thought we were going to have some trouble getting through it. But we didn't, actually. It looks like we have now broken through again. Now, we haven't closed. We need to close above it, which is kind of one of the nice things. So we are slowly starting to move back up. But here's this big thing. Even though my old channel, let's pull it back again so you can see it. Even though my old channel is invalidated, it's invalidated as a channel per se, but it's going to present some resistance. So when we get back up, if we make it back up to 36, we're going to have some resistance. There's going to be more resistance along the way. Like there's this resistance. We've got this zone here that's going to become resistance as well. So there's a lot of things keeping it from going really, really high fast. The other issue that we have is a couple of things. One is the NASDAQ. That's where a lot of your tech companies are. And Bitcoin has just been, it's been very, very good at following what the NASDAQ is doing. And while tech struggles, it's going to make it difficult for Bitcoin to make the gains that we need. That's one. The other thing is we are looking once again at, on June 1st, we are looking once again at another rate hike. So that may as well cause some issues. So even if Bitcoin is, even if Bitcoin has hit its bottom, I see our trip towards the top as not being, a simple one. I see it as being a lot of sideways, almost like sideways steps. So in a sense, I know what I can do. Just give me a second here. I'm going to try something. I've never did this before. I've never done this before. All right. So this here is a whiteboard that I can use. Anonymous giraffe. What's all that? I have no idea how to clear the whiteboard, but down here. Here's where we go. So it's yellow. I'll change the color. Let's just make it red because it will show up a little bit better. And grab the eraser here and get rid of that. All right. So when you're looking at movement, and this happens a lot with Bitcoin, the way Bitcoin tends to work is it will tend to, and I guess since we're going up, we'll go with green just to make it. So Bitcoin will tend to move up a little bit, and then it will move sideways. Then it will move up, sideways, up. So these are sort of like steps. And it's the same thing when you're going down. So when Bitcoin's going down, it'll usually, go down a little bit, sideways, down, sideways, down. So it tends to take that stepping type behavior, which is kind of fun. But that's kind of the way I'm thinking of it going up. Anyway, here we go. This little happy face. Hi. Anyway, let's see. What are you saying, Ken? You and I both called this happening between March and May. Yeah, that makes sense. All right, let's go back to the chart for a second. So right now, when it comes to, that's where I designed the logo, by the way, or the thing for the sheet. Where the heck is my thing at? Did I accidentally? Oh, you know what I accidentally did? I accidentally just loaded it on the same page. So there we go. Get back into trading view. All right. So right now, I do not yet have any patterns to sort of give us a general idea of the way this is going. But I think for right now, I'm mostly going to be very cautious with it and sort of pay attention to what the NASDAQ is doing. Because Bitcoin does tend to mirror the NASDAQ a little bit, sort of mirrors the NASDAQ and acts like a commodity at the same time. So that's going to be one of those things I'm going to keep my attention on, is how the NASDAQ is doing. And I'll sort of cater that. Like, I'm still very bullish on Bitcoin. Like, I personally think that down here has been a fantastic time to get buying opportunity for people who are long-term holders, because long-term, you can't go wrong buying in this zone. And I know there's a lot of bears out there that are screaming it's going to go down into the teens, or, it's going to break below 20. But the reality is there's a lot of resistance down in the lower 20s, from 25 right down. There's a lot of resistance. I guess it's technically support. I don't see it breaking that low. I could be wrong, though. Absolutely. I will say that there is definitely a chance, because nobody really knows what's going to happen. But I do think it's going to be very difficult for it to break much lower than even where it wicked. When you look at that wick and you look at the power of that bounce, that just shows me that that's a really good amount of resistance. Now, if it were to plow through that, that could be bad, but I just don't really think it will. So I would say maybe if we get a strong bounce off of, say, one of these resistances on the way, or maybe if it doesn't close outside of this here resistance and it comes back down, we might make it back down to 25. But even then, I still don't see it as being anything. So if you're one of these people who's holding on to a big, and this is not financial advice, I just want to put that out here. This is just kind of what I'm thinking, is if I were holding onto a big bag of money that I was going to invest in Bitcoin, but I'm waiting because I'm thinking, it's probably going to get down to 20. I probably would completely miss the boat, because even if you're waiting now, let's say it doesn't even come back down below here. It probably will, but let's say it doesn't. Then you've already, this is all of this buying opportunity in here has already been missed. But here's the reality. If 5 years from now, with where the price of Bitcoin is going to be, whether you bought it here, or even here, is really going to be insignificant compared to where you're going to be at that point in time. So that's one of those neat things. Now, one of the things I would definitely caution about is I would just caution a little bit with altcoins. Be very, very, very careful, while all of this is happening, because I know a lot of people, who got burnt with some of the things, like almost all of the even big coins, like big altcoins, a lot of them really, really, really suffered a lot in this. I like Polkadot, but Polkadot was down almost 50%. Now, luckily, I moved out of Polkadot and moved everything over to Bitcoin, because when I see this type of turbulence coming, that's usually one of those things I want to do, is to get into a more stable position where I know that I'm 1 billion% safe compared to 100% safe. Like, Polkadot will of course recover, but there's going to be some coins that are probably not going to recover. I don't know what's going to happen to Luna, for example. I know it went really, really far. It went really, really insanely far down, almost pretty much close to nothing, but it'll be interesting to see. And I know Ken mentioned something about a wrapped Luna. I have not had a chance to look at that yet, so I don't have any information on that. But the market, in the alt market, there is still a need for the alt market. It's all going to recover, but there could be some pain before we get there. I think that's the big lesson to take with this, is that we could be looking at a little bit of suffering along the way, but that's fine, because we're investors, and when you're a long-term investor, short-term suffering is really nothing. And I look at it this way: a lot of long-term investors, the market's short-term suffering is when they're making a lot of money, because there's a lot of great stocks, for example, that were available last week at a nice discount price. So I'm hoping some of you guys got in there and took some advantage of some of the sales. But it boils down to, you always want to be paying attention to the market. You always want to be paying attention to fundamentals. You want to be making sure that, because too many people get very blind. Like they park their money and they just don't even pay any attention. They don't even watch what's happening. Now, if you're that type of investor that you're not looking for, that you don't want to spend a lot of time, paying attention to your portfolio, well, there's options for you. One of them, of course, is Robo-Advisor. And here's an interesting thing about a Robo-Advisor. In June, I'm going to be doing an experiment. So I'm going to take $500 and put it in a Robo-Advisor. And then I'm going to put $500 in another account that I'm going to manually be trading. And we're going to see who wins, me or the Robo-Advisor. It's going to be like War of the Robot versus Candace. I plan to win, but maybe I won't. So it'll be kind of fun to see who wins that one. So that's going to be kind of a neat thing. The other thing too is if you don't have a lot of time for maintenance, or if you're brand new and you're like, I don't understand fundamentals, I don't know what I'm doing, help me. In a case like that, you want to start looking at your blue chip ETFs. So like, for example, some of the Vanguard ETFs are really, really good ETFs. You're not going to make a crazy amount on them, but they're stable and they're very, very well managed. And those are ETFs that you can put your money in, and then you can just leave them alone for as long as you want and come back to them, and you'll be fine. Whereas if you drop your money in some stocks and then you take off and leave them alone, you don't know if you're going to be fine when you come back. So it's one of those things, like if you don't have the time for maintenance, or if you're just brand new, when you're brand new, jump into some ETFs. Get something nice and stable that it doesn't matter too much what you're doing, because then you can have your money being stable and making you something while you're learning about stocks and about individual companies. Now, I will tell you, I am absolutely a hypocrite, because when I first learned about stocks, I jumped into companies. I didn't fully understand, how powerful ETFs were initially. And I think for me, my very first company was Fortis. Now, I was picking blue chip companies, so that at least was a good thing, because but it's one of those things, like when you're brand new and you get in, and depends on where you're going. Like if you're learning everything you want about stocks on YouTube, well, then there's danger there. I'll give you that warning right away, because you can watch quite literally 6 different YouTubers talk about the exact same stock, and while you're watching them one to one, you'll be wanting to sell, to buy, to double down, to sell again, to go home and crawl up like in a fetal ball and cry. You'll want to do all of those things, because sometimes YouTubers have this really good way of making you feel their enthusiasm towards a particular stock. And the way you need to approach that is that you've got to look at a YouTuber as more or less just an encyclopedia entry. We're there to present information, but what you should be doing is taking our information and always using it as the beginning when it comes to researching. So, for example, the other night on Kryptonite in Canada, both me and Ryan were talking about CNR. I have a lot of confidence in CNR, but my confidence is my confidence. It's not your confidence. So if you're thinking, oh, okay, yeah, I liked what they were saying about CNR, well, that's awesome. What you need to do, though, is don't just go out and blindly buy a bunch of CNR. Go and check them out. Go and look, do some more research on them, find out, do the due diligence part. And then, if you got yourself a financial advisor, talk to them, make sure you bounce that off. And I think most financial advisors are going to be pretty okay with you going with CNR. But once again, that's an opinion, right? I think most financial advisors would be okay with you going with CNR. And you'd still want to talk to them, because you never know. I mean, maybe your financial advisor has a thing against trains, and but if they have a thing against trains, hopefully they would be able to put aside their bias against trains to give you proper advice. And 2, if they can't, then at least give you something that is a lot better than that. Now, so the freaking Oracle says he's got himself some wrapped Luna, and he's going to be picking up some Ezillion token. Ezillion. Okay, I have not heard of Ezillion. And this is the funny thing. Like, I give Ken a lot of credit. When a lot of people are running for the hills when it comes to altcoins, Ken is just in there gobbling them up like there's no tomorrow. So, and he has the name the Oracle for a reason. He's very good at picking the right ones. I'm still at that point personally where I'm very happy just sitting in Bitcoin, because I know what to expect right now. I'm not saying that I've closed the door on altcoins forever. I've only just temporarily closed the door on altcoins, and waiting to see what's going to happen. Because that's one of the things when you go into a bear market. And here's the funny thing. Some people think we're in a bear market. Some people think we're not in a bear market. I think we're in a bear market. I wouldn't say I don't think it's a long bear market, but maybe it will be. I don't know. But I think, we've kind of, when you look at Bitcoin, since November, things have just not been too good. it's been a long haul down. So I would say, well, I mean, look at this chart here. Where is November here? October, here we go. November is right up here. So, I mean, since November, we've gone from here all the way down to here. So we've that to me, that's very bearish. I don't see this as just a simple quick bang, bang. There was a chance, like right here, there was a chance I just couldn't get through this. But I think, we're in a bear, but how long is it going to last? Like, yes, I got a lot of resistance down here, but even if we just go sideways here and just move up and down and we never leave these two channels here, um, you know, even if that goes until October, then you could almost say that we had a 1 year bear market at that point. Though I do think we'll see some better movement. I'm still thinking, ah, I'm still thinking we'll see some, but I don't think it's going to follow anybody's schedule. Now, there's a lot of people out there who think that they have a general good idea. Like anybody, when it comes to any asset, really, if they try to tell you that they know what it's going to do tomorrow, well, they're probably wrong. Now, the only exception to that is if like, for example, June 1st with the interest rates hiking up, we know that generally after they do that, there's usually a little bit of a pump. And then after that, a little bit of a fall. So that's pretty much, that's going to happen. So it's almost like a cycle because that tends to be what does happen. But at the same time, look at it, the last Fed hike. Normally those little happy feelings about about the market, they normally last for, up to a week. We got an afternoon pretty much. We got an afternoon of green, and then everything went red for for a week. So you need to sort of keep that in mind. Sometimes there's a pattern that normally follows an event, but a lot of times the duration of each part of that pattern are really, really up for interpretation. So you don't always have the best idea of what's going on. And Max is going all in on Save the Kids coin. It's nice to support a good cause. I have not heard of Save the Kids coin, and hopefully it's legitimate. I have this thing when I see a coin that has a name that implies something, almost like even if it's just like implies that it's a cause, I'm always wanting to definitely do my due diligence on it. For the simple reason that if I were a scammer, I would try to make a coin that would tug on people's heartstrings so that they would act with their heart and not their mind, because that would be a way to pull in some of the money that you can then rug pull them on. So I would be careful with something like Save the Kids coin. Now, at the same time, I also know that Max is a little bit of a comedian, so this could be a joke that I'm not getting. So I'm going to put that out there as well, because that is a possibility. Normally, I get most of Max's humor though, so because he's pretty funny. But this time I'm not 100% sure, and the friggin' Oracle hadn't heard of it, so he says he's going to look into that one. So that'll be interesting. All right, so that was Bitcoin. Let's. Oh dear, let's get out of there. I was just like, why are we even still in the Bitcoin at the moment? Here we go. There we go. Well, we're all back again. All right, so we're coming down to about 6 minutes left. If you guys have any questions, just throw them at me. Oh, it is a joke. And Max says you are on to me. Perfect. Whew. That's good to know. Because it would have sucked if there really was a legitimate Save the Kids coin and I kind of implied that they were a scammer. So I would have felt bad afterwards. But, okay, so yeah, coming up this week, as I mentioned, I kind of touched on it a little bit. So tomorrow I have a video coming out. It is, it's my Titan video. So these are 10 stocks that have absolutely insane total returns over the last year. So they'll be interesting to some of these returns just blew my mind away. So, and as I mentioned before, they are all energy stocks. So I think this video will really highlight how booming the energy sector really is. So definitely one that you want to check out. Then on Thursday, I got another video coming out. I haven't fully decided yet what it was going to be. I was thinking about doing a video just talking about the relationship between gold and Bitcoin, but I'm kind of not feeling that right now. So I'm thinking about doing something a little bit different for Thursday. But yeah, so Thursday will be interesting. And then, of course, next week we'll be back here again for this week. And hopefully, as we do every week, we'll hope that Elon shows something up so that he can at least get into the picture. And, he's sort of here right now. He's kind of right there, sort of underneath everything. And hopefully, it would actually be nice if it was a slow news week, because then we'll figure something out to talk about if that's the case. Yeah, so I think that's about everything that's going on in the world. Trying to think if there's anything else. Another nice thing about tomorrow's video. I have changed the background a little bit. So there's going to be something very different about tomorrow's video. So you'll have to zoom in. You'll have to jump in, listen to that one, check it out, see what that is. And the other thing too is I'll do a post a little bit later tonight because we are at the end of that first contest. So I have to do the roll on the comments to see who won $25. So I'll do a post. I'll put that on the Facebook community tab. So if you want to check that, and if you're the winner, then you have to get me your ShakePay tag so I can get some money over to you. So we'll do that. I'll do that tonight. Actually, as soon as I finish this, I will go dig up all of the names, and we'll do a little roll, and we'll see who wins. So exciting. So good luck, everybody who did leave an entry on that video. We'll probably do one of these again soonish, because it's fun to give away money. It's like my moment of almost being what is it? It's like being Mr. Beast, but on an incredibly insane budget. Okay, Labrador just asked, can't buy Luna on Wealthsimple. This is what it said. Luna is currently experiencing network issues. As a result, Luna orders have been temporarily disabled. We'll provide an update as soon as we can. That does not surprise me. I know there's been a lot of issues with Luna getting delisted and then relisted. So yeah, it's definitely one of those things that I think is I think was going to be a bit of an issue. And Ken just mentioned that that's one of the reasons that people are buying wrapped Luna. So that would be a way around it if you get it wrapped. Now, is it being wrapped in Ethereum, Ken? That's what I'm thinking. But that might be one issue to get around it if you want to have some Luna. I'm not really. I know Ken has his reason. That's a funny thing. When Ken really likes something for some reason, it makes it very hard to ignore that he likes it. Because I've seen his history, and he does tend to do good with these things that he likes. So, but once again, not financial advice or oracle advice, just one of those observations on that. Okay. Well, if there's no other questions, guys, this has been a fantastic week, and we will see you here again live next week. Also, keep in mind, every Wednesday night, I am live over there on the Danter Banter. I think they're rebranding their channel name, so I don't know if it's Danter Banter now, but over on the Tim and Nancy Danter channel. So definitely tune into that as well. Until then, and until next week, let's hope we have lots of news in the coming weeks so that we can talk about it in this week. I always find that funny saying that. Anyway, everybody, it has been fantastic. We will see you again 1 week from today.